Hi everyone. So if you haven't heard, Danny Masterson is in kind of an oopsie, kind of a stinky little situation. And I want to give a trigger warning for anybody that could be triggered by SA or anything like that. So here's the trigger warning. I just want everyone to be aware of what they're getting into because this is kind of a dark topic that we're touching on today. Also, if you're wondering why I sound so stuffy and stuff, I'm really sick right now, but I was like, I need to make a video on this. So I'm powering through it. So today's video is on Danny Masterson, and you might not recognize that name, but Danny Masterson plays Hyde in the show That 70s Show. He also was known for the show The Ranch that was on Netflix with Ashton Kutcher, and recently he's had allegations of being an R-worder. I don't know how else to put that. That's the safest way to put it. So recently he's had claims of being a rapist. That's a good word for it, right? So I remember hearing about these claims about 2 years ago, and he's finally getting in trouble for it, which is really good to see. So right here we have Danny Masterson. This is what he looks like nowadays. And quite honestly, you probably recognize him for this character on That 70s Show. He was one of my favorite characters, and unfortunately, he is a horrible human being. So a little information on Danny Masterson. He is a Scientologist, which automatically to me, call me an asshole or whatever, but automatically to me that is a massive red flag. So in the last couple years he's had 3 accusations of rape, and these situations are from all the way back in the early 2000s. As you can see, this is Danny Masterson and his wife walking to the courtroom to have his trial. Apparently she stuck by his side the whole time. Because she's done that, I feel like it's only fair to show her name because, you know, she obviously wants to stand by a guy that's obviously done these horrible things. Her name is B. Joey Phillips. I don't know how the fuck to say your name. Okay, so she was known for Raising Hope, which she was only in like 2 or 3 episodes, and she was Hope's mom that is crazy and kills somebody, and then the guy that hooked up with her is like stuck with the kid pretty much, and that's how the show starts. I don't know if she's ever done any other acting roles. That's the only one that really pops up for when I look her up. So she's 43 years old, and Danny Masterson is 47 years old. They also have a daughter that is 9 years old, which is really sad to know because now their daughter is going to be growing up without a father, and on top of that, their father is now known as a rapist and also is a crazy Scientologist. So you know, that kind of sucks. So I feel really bad for their daughter. I don't really feel bad for the wife, honestly, because she's like sticking by him, and I just feel like at this point it's so obvious. Like, yeah, it sucks that you're in that situation and shit, but if you're gonna stand by somebody's side when it's so proven that he's a horrible person in this sense, like, I don't know. It's just, I don't really feel that much mercy for you. So right here it says That 70s Show's actor Danny Masterson gets 30 years to life in prison for rape of 2 women. From my knowledge, there's actually 3 accusations, but only 2 of them have been proven, I guess, at this point. I obviously want to send my thoughts with them and all the love to them because obviously that's horrible. Probably one of the worst things I could say that ever could happen to someone, in my opinion. And I'm glad that he's actually having to be held accountable for this stuff because no one deserves to get away with something so disgusting. One of the victims said, "When you R-word me, you stole from me." Masterson was convicted of R-wording in 2003. That's insane that this has like been going on for so long, and now he's finally actually having to have repercussions for it. But this happened all the way back in 2003. This was already known, and he literally was a free man still acting in shows like The Ranch and stuff, and still having his friends like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, who we will get to. The victim also said, "That's what R-word is. It's a theft of the spirit." Another victim said, "You're pathetic, disturbed, and completely violent." She said, "The world would be better off with you in prison." That is 100% valid and completely true. Apparently, Danny Masterson is maintaining his innocence and saying that he didn't do it, which is no surprise. Like, who's really gonna admit to 3 counts of R-word? If you're already horrible enough to do that thing, I don't think I would trust them to admit that they actually did those things, of course. The other woman Masterson was found guilty of R-wording said, "He has not shown an ounce of remorse for the pain that he's caused. I knew he belonged behind bars for the safety of all women he came in contact with. I am so sorry and I am so upset. I wish I reported him sooner to the police." At his second trial, a jury found Masterson guilty of 2 of 3 counts of R-word. On May 31st, both attacks took place in Masterson's Hollywood area home in 2003. Holy shit, this happened a long time ago. That's insane that this happened 20 years ago, and now he's finally getting in trouble for it. That's crazy. And it's also just like I said, like, it's insane that he was like still doing acting and stuff and being on mainstream like platforms like Netflix and stuff, and having huge celebrity friends that stood by him and stuff and still continue to stay by him, which we'll get into. One of the women said, "I don't have to carry your shame around with me anymore." The first woman who spoke said, Now you have to hold that shame. You have to sit in a cell and hold it. Apparently Masterson drugged these women in his home and violently R-worded them, which is really sad, in 2003. No charges came from the women's 2004 police report, but she returned to the authorities when she learned they were investigating Masterson again in 2016. Wow, so in 2004 it was completely brought to the police and it was just dropped, I guess, instantly. And then somebody else brought up reports against him in 2016, and then it finally started moving again. And now in 2023, something is finally happening. The other two women had waited more than 15 years before reporting him to anyone other than the church's officials. As I said, Danny Masterson is a part of the Church of Scientology. And apparently from what I've heard, the Church of Scientology allegedly has been covering up this case and protecting Danny Masterson from, you know, what is currently happening to him. Also, what I'm gathering is some of these women were also part of the Church of Scientology. As I said, it just sounds like a cult. It just sounds like a cult. It's fucked up. I lost everything. I lost my religion. I lost my ability to connect with anyone I'd known or loved my entire life. I didn't exist outside the Scientology world. I had to start my life all over at 29 years old. It seemed the world I knew didn't want me to live. Apparently, the Church of Scientology just denied all the claims of knowing everything and also denied that there's ever been any harassing of women in the Church of Scientology. In my opinion, I don't believe that. I'm going to be quite honest. Prosecutors allege that Masterson used his prominence in the Church of Scientology, where all three women were members also at the time. So like I said, he had power and all three women were a part of the Church of Scientology, and from what it sounds like, they did cover up what he did and they were trying to protect him. No surprise, a church trying to cover up some creep that's doing something illegal. Never seen that before. To avoid consequences for decades after the attacks, and the women blamed the church for their hesitancy in going to the police. So a lot of this could have probably been dealt with even sooner if, you know, the church didn't make them feel like they shouldn't be going to the police. So that's like a little coverage on what happened with Danny Masterson. Currently, he's going to face up to 30 years in prison and maybe serve life in prison, which hopefully he honestly gets because he just deserves to rot there until he, you know, doesn't exist anymore. A lot of people bring up this clip of Danny Masterson on Conan O'Brien where he pretty much admits that he is doing some sketchy shit with the Church of Scientology. And I'm just guessing that this is honestly around 2003. I wouldn't be surprised if this already happened, what he's accused of.
You have no accent though. You have no Long Island accent that I can discern.
Not really. I've been in LA for 10 years.
And it just goes away naturally, right?
It goes away naturally, and then there's also certain words that there's nothing you can do about. Like my friend Bodie Elfman, he always teases me and he says, "Hi, my name is Danny Masterson. Would you like to touch my balls?" You know, doing an imitation of me, because certain words you just can't get away with.
So why are you asking people to do that? That's the more important question.
I mean, you got them.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Accent aside,
everybody should grab.
That's the more important thing.
Exactly.
I've heard about you, and you'll be caught soon. I know you will.
I will.
So Conan O'Brien said, "I heard about you and you'll be caught soon." I mean, he might just be joking and saying something that's outlandish, but holy shit, that's dark. That's dark. I also just remember that Danny Matterson's brother is Christopher Matterson, which is really interesting. This isn't really something that matters too much, but if you remember this guy, he was on the show Malcolm in the Middle and he was one of the brothers. He was the older brother. So I just found that really interesting. And from what I know, he's also a Scientologist. So I guess the whole family is just a bunch of Scientologists. As you can see, here's a photo of them together. So yeah, that's just a weird, interesting fun fact. Small world.
Actor Danny Masterson, known for his role in That 70s Show, has been found guilty of 2 out of 3 counts of in a retrial in Los Angeles. The jury, consisting of 7 women and 5 men, reached the verdict after 7 days of deliberation. Masterson was led away from the courtroom in handcuffs and will be held without bail until sentencing. The Church of Scientology played a significant role in the trial, with expert testimony on church policy allowed. The women who accused Masterson testified that they were discouraged from reporting the to law enforcement by the church.
Apparently these aren't even real images of him. This says burn AI. So I assume that these are AI images. I don't even think these are real images. Actually insane to read some of these comments and see all the victim blaming as well and people being like, there's no evidence, da 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 da. That's disgusting. So one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video though is that Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis unfortunately involved themselves into this situation. Obviously they've been friends with Danny Matterson for a long time and it just came out today that they stand by him to an extent. I just want to say it's really disappointing because Ashton Kutcher's been known for protecting kids from sex trafficking, which is really an awesome thing that I thought he was a really good human being. And hearing what he said about Danny Matterson is just what? Are you even the same guy that supposedly, standing against child sex trafficking. I know it's not the exact same situation, but a victim's a victim, you know what I mean? And for him to, you know, have remorse for somebody that's being a disgusting human being to this level is just really weird in my opinion. Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis wrote a letter in support of Danny Masterson, who ended up being sentenced to 30 years in prison for R-wording 2 women. Ashton Kutcher reportedly called him a role model, which is actually insane. Like, how the fuck are you gonna call this guy a role model? Like, in what world is this guy living in? Like, Ashton, what the fuck? Like, is this an episode of Punk'd? Are we on a new episode of Punk'd? Are you bringing the show back? Because what the fuck are you talking about? While Mila Kunis also commented on his exceptional character. I am so disappointed in both of these people. That is actually insane. Like, I'm sure it's extremely hard to see a friend turn out to be a piece of shit human being, but to actually say this is insane. Like, you don't know this guy. You don't. You thought you knew him, but for him to be doing these crimes and you've known him all this time and didn't know about it, the horrible things that he's done, I would assume that you didn't know about it. Maybe you actually did and you just also protected him. I don't know. But for you to say that he's a role model after all this and an exceptional character and all this is insane. This random person said, they might prove to be wrong in their judgment about him, but it's still commendable that they decided to stick up publicly for a friend. Oh my God. Especially considering the nature of the charges he was facing. Takes guts and characters for a celeb to say that these days. No, bro. What are you talking about, bro? What? That's enough social media for today. I don't need to hear stupid people's opinions. Ashton Kutcher in his letter of support to Danny Masterson prior to his sentencing. While I'm aware that the judgment has been casted as 2 guilty counts of R-word by force and the victims have a great desire for justice, I hope that my testimony to his character is taken into consideration. I'm sorry, man. Just because you fucking thought he was a nice guy does not matter. It just legitimately doesn't. Like, oh my God, yeah, this person just shot somebody, but like they were really sweet to me. We had drinks once and he was a nice guy or she was a nice person. Oh, I know that they're accused of R-wording, but like, I mean, I played Fortnite with them for a couple hours and it was really fun. This is actually the craziest thing that I fucking heard this whole time. I do not believe that he is an ongoing harm to society, and having his daughter raised without a present father would be an injustice in itself. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Hi, Ashton. I grew up without a dad. Luckily, my dad wasn't a piece of shit like Danny Masterson. But I want to tell you that you can grow up without a father and still turn out fine. I mean, I still have my struggles, of course, because I'm human. But I turned out fine, to be quite honest. And if I had a father that was like Danny Masterson, I would be extremely happy to not have that human being in my fucking life. Especially the older I get, where I understand these situations, I would be happy that that guy's behind bars. I would be happy if they didn't exist on this planet anymore. His daughter does not deserve to have this fucking piece of shit human being in her life. I hope that her mother actually steps up and is a good mother. I have doubts just because she's a part of the Church of Scientology and stood by her husband, who is an R-worder. But I wouldn't even trust Danny Masterson with a child. I don't trust him with anyone. Like, I'm sorry, call me like a psycho for that, but why the fuck should he be able to be around his fucking daughter? He's a danger. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I believe he's not a danger because like he hasn't done it in a couple years. Like, you don't know that. He could instantly one day just do it again. You don't know this guy's emotions. You don't know him like that. You might know him as a friend, but you do not know him on a personal level of when he's alone and what he thinks. So reading this was very disappointing. Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, Danny Masterson's wife, all of you, get yourself checked. I feel really bad for the actual victims, and I feel very bad for the daughter as well, because she is also a victim in this, because she's losing her father and is always going to have a father that's known for being this horrible monster. I really wish her well, and I hope her mother steps up and takes great care of her, because she doesn't deserve to be going through this. All right, it's the next day, and Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis did just respond to all the backlash that they're getting for writing a letter to Danny Masterson.
We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future.
A couple months ago, Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years, so that the judge could take that into full consideration relative to the sentencing.
Why would you want to help this guy still? Like, I still don't understand. You're still trying to help somebody that was, you know, already confirmed to be that, or had claims to be that, which I would assume you probably had a feeling that he already did all these things. It's really hard to say that you're there for victims, but then try to defend somebody that's done so many crimes.
Letters were not written to question the legitimacy of the judicial system or the validity of the jury's ruling.
They were intended for the judge to read, and not to undermine the testimony of the victims or re-traumatize them in any way. We would never want to do that. And we're sorry if that has taken place.
Our heart goes out to every single person who's ever been a victim of sexual assault, sexual abuse.
Why do people have to script this shit so much? I mean, it's cool that they're apologizing now that they got caught and people are upset with them, but why do people have to write this shit down so much? Like, it just sounds so bullshit when they do this. Well, I mean, it sounds like they got caught and that's it. I mean, I don't know how you could say you're there for victims when you literally put something out there that would try to make him look good. Like, that's literally the whole point of it. Like, it's like, oh yeah, this is to show the character that he was when we knew him. It's like, okay, what else reason would there be, like, for you to say nice things though, besides to try to make him look good? So I just find this to be a little bullshit, to be honest. So with all that being said, I am very disappointed in all the people that are victim blaming or trying to stand by this guy. He doesn't deserve anybody to stand by him. And I'm glad that the victims are getting justice and that this guy's actually going to face time now and hopefully for the rest of his life. And I really wish his daughter well, and I hope that she is okay after all this. I know it's like easier said than it will be, because obviously growing up without a father and also a father with a name like this now is horrible, and I could only imagine. But I hope that she turns out to be a great human being and hopefully understands that her dad did belong behind bars and is a pretty horrible person, unfortunately. It's insane to me that these cases take so long for people to take seriously. I wish police and people in general just took these cases a lot more seriously, because I've seen it a lot of times where people bring up situations of sexual misconduct and stuff, and it's just almost pushed to the side, and it's a really hard thing to unfortunately totally prove, and that's a really sad thing. And I just hope that the world and people find a better way to prove these things to where things can be handled a lot sooner, because people like this should not be getting away for 20 plus years and having people stand by them and protecting them. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Be sure to like it though. You can check out my merch if you want to support the channel and all that crap. I feel really weird promoting myself after this video, but dab not crappy. Last bitch don't quit, and peace out, thug pugs. Fuck.
You've got your gun to my head. This all was only with the